In a world where we can access almost any piece of music with a click, there's plenty of people like me who continue to buy vinyl records. The record store is an exciting place to start making important decisions. Aside from checking new releases, gaze at album covers, meet your favorite band, or flirt with your crush, the person behind the counter, you get to live in the pop culture era of your choice. There's just something magical about getting to that record store to buy a bunch of records. Have you ever thought about what types of collectors exist, what prompts people to collect, and if there's a specific time you will end up transitioning from just a lover of music to an obsessive buyer? The landscape of record collecting has changed dramatically in the past 20 years or so, and collecting is a widespread activity. Like children collect toys, fans collect music. It's a lot easier to relate to someone who owns a vinyl record that has a personal identity or nostalgic value aside from an aesthetic one. If, let's say, you're in your 30s or 40s and discovered electronic music in high school, you're probably separating yourself as a person from the EDM masses. Or if you're focused on collecting industrial, noise, or avant-garde music, you're sending a message, at least to yourself, you wouldn't be caught dead living in the mainstream. Many collectors just missed growing up in a certain era, so the act of collecting is something of a lost paradise. Even though you can't transport yourself back to the days of Britpop or the Sunset Strip in 1966, you can have your personal soundtrack that connects you to a place where all things you love are still in place and everybody's having a fabulous time. In some cases, record collecting becomes more organized, intense, and at times more expensive. Several dedicated collectors are aware of the rarity and economic values and may spend a lot of cash on a particular record. Superfans devoted to one artist are amongst the most loyal ones. Others are more concerned with the aesthetic qualities of a record than the actual music itself. For example, Beatles collectors are still as obsessed as ever with that butcher cover pulled from the Yesterday and Today album, which was once sold on eBay for more than $2,000. There is a stereotypical view of collectors as obsessive males whose passion for collecting is often a replacement for genuine social relationships and exhibit a train-spotting mentality towards popular music. This is very much the case in the best-known representation of record collectors in the film and novel High Fidelity.
I get by because the people make a special effort to shop here. Mostly young men who spend all their time looking for deleted Smith singles and original, not re-released underline Frank Zappa albums.
For some dedicated collectors, possessing an abundance of records is necessary but not a sufficient condition, as the collector must endlessly continue to keep acquiring new material for their collection. Some others think that there's no point collecting records unless you believe there is a record so powerful that you don't have to play it. You can just get a fix from its presence. Like Jeff Gold, that owns part of Jimi Hendrix's personal record collection that includes Jimi Hendrix's copy of Electric Ladyland. Of course, the hardcore audiophiles claim that vinyl sounds better than digital formats and will shut their ears to any contrary arguments. So what urged people to start collecting? During the mid to late 19th century, a mix of capitalism and consumerism increased leisure time and disposable income. Nostalgia made collecting a significant aspect of the social identity for the middle classes of Europe, Britain, and the United States. Record collecting as social practice was a logical extension of such activities. Early collectors were associated with the emergence of what is named as gramophone culture. They embraced physical and social spaces that facilitated and shaped the production and consumption of recorded music. These included the early recording companies, record appreciation societies, music retail outlets, the second-hand market, and the music press. Back in 1996, music journalist Peter Doggett observed that in the UK market there was no such thing as a pop or rock and roll collector until the 1960s. Only then dealers started importing material from the US, and loyal R&B fans began to flood into places like Soho Market in London every weekend, searching through piles of 45s in the hopes of finding obscure rockabilly or blues gems. From there, a small but dedicated collectors network began to spread across the UK. By the early 1970s, there were specialist shops, mail-order dealers, and a bunch of soul, R&B, and rock and roll fanzines. Around the same time, the reissue market started very slowly to get off the ground. The launch of record collector magazine Goldmine in 1974 established collecting in North America. Another critical moment was the founding of Record Collector magazine in 1979, which focused on vinyl collectors. What started as a small-time hobby has expanded into a respected full-fledged industry. In the 1970s, almost no one could make a living by collecting music. Fast forward to now, the record collector industry is more efficient, profitable, and widespread as it ever has been. Anyone that gets deep into music and record collecting feels like they're searching for the perfect relationship. You like to think that there's something out there that will change your life as soon as you find it. Isn't it fun to chase that rare record to add to your collection? But don't you think that music must return to an intangible sense altogether, in which it would stop being something to collect and revert to something that transforms a moment and then disappears, just like a troubadour leaving town?